Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Alana James, and I'm very excited to talk today in our group about managing your independence and skill development as a graduate student, both in the academic side of things and also as a preparation for getting the job you want when this is all over. And so with that, this is a group, and some of you will be watching by recording, so you won't be able to participate in the group as much, although when you were given your, when the system sent you the fact that confirming that you had signed up for the email, there was a wooclap.com, in this case / the word stumble, was our conversation. So whether or not you're in the room or you're watching by recording, you can go to www.wooclap.com / stumble, and you can participate in any of the webinars that I do or that I host for other people, and by answering a question or bringing into the topic what you want us to talk about. So we had 3 people bring that up, bring questions to us. Maybe some more will come in during the time that we're talking today. And if you're watching by recording, you'll be able to participate at that address. And then at the end of January, we will roll all the ones together for December and January, and you will have answers, particularly in the February newsletter. So that's how this system works, allowing all of you to have personalized responses even when coming to a big international webinar. So what's the difference between a group and a webinar? Well, the power in group lies in the diversity of opinions. So it's not just myself or one of our staff or a guest presenter, but hopefully it's a lot of conversation between the people in the room and the topics. So as you listen, I have a few minutes of things to talk about and ideas, and in this case, a particular set of things you might want to do for yourself in order to look strategically at where you are now and where you want to be as a graduate student in terms of independence and skill development during 2020. But so you'll have a direct something to do as a result of this. But if you're here in the room and you're listening, keep in mind 2 questions. Do you have some experience or ideas that might be helpful to this, or does this conversation bring up questions in you that you could learn from if you brought them up? And then if either of those things are true, please jump in and start using the chat, and we'll then have a lively conversation as we go. Remember, there are no dumb questions or comments ever. So with that, these slides are in the handouts. And if you're watching by recording and you don't see them in the published recordings, there's been some change in our partner software, and sometimes it's not as obvious where the slides are. You can write Siobhan, and that's spelled S-I-O, B as in boy, H-A-N, at doctoralnet.com, and she will make sure that you get these slides. This slide is all of the articles and webinars and other things that are resources for you that you might want to delve into more on these topics. So the first link is a couple of articles on technical reading. And one of our questions that came in with WooClap was about reading. So that link might be particularly good for you, especially the difficulty of staying focused when reading technically. The second link are many articles about academic writing skills. The third and fourth are both webinar or box sets actually of webinars on the 5 cognitive skills and the 5 attitudinal skills for the 4th Industrial Revolution. And those will point you towards job preparation ideas, and they'll come up again as we talk. Reading comprehension skills is another link. And then if you're interested in having a boost to your writing, we have a system called the 10-Day Writing Boost. Every day for 10 days, you get a short webinar that is about writing. Not a webinar, really, more like a quick video. And then that will help boost your writing. 10 days, one day after another. And then there's a box set, box set is delivered by email to you. Comes all at one time, but it has a lot in it. And a box set, all of that box set is on the how-to skills for graduate students. There's something else on reading strategy skills, on critical analysis, and on building routines. And that last is an article, and it's one of 5 or 6 that I wrote a few years ago about how being a graduate student is a lot like preparing to run a marathon. And if we look at the skills of each, it's a useful analogy. So that's to get us started. If you're just joining us by recording, find that slide and you have all of those links. So this first step in this 2-step process is to mind map 4 different directions. And I've done them here as just talking points. The first is independence, because our topic was how to increase your independence. So that brings to mind then, how do you define independence? And off the top of my head, I thought perhaps it's the ability to make your own decisions. Perhaps it has something to do with clarity of mind and action. And perhaps also it has a sense of guiding your own ship, taking responsibility for your own experiences of life. If the people in the room have other things that you'd like to add to that, please don't hesitate to add them. We'll start the conversation that way. Then the other main topic was skill development, and I see that in a graduate student's life is dividing out into 3 basic things. Continuing development of awareness skills, which some call life skills. That place where we as human beings interact with our world around us, and how that interaction goes, and how we have the skills to do it well. Negotiation might be one of them. Mindfulness might be one of them. Academic skills are also, of course, part of a graduate student's and early career researchers world, and also work skills. So because this conversation hopefully will also guide you to that really empowered mix of where you are as a person, where you are as a student or early career academic, and where you are as when you think about your next job. So when we take on work skills, then it has to do with being good at what we are required to do, and having that feed the rest of this system. Another part of this mind map is academics. And academics starts with critical thinking and discussion. It includes reading and all the reading comprehension skills, etc., that go with it, and writing. And lots of the links that I gave you at the beginning were particularly geared to helping that triad of skills. And once again, perhaps the people in the room have other skills they would like us to discuss in any of these formats. And then finally, when we move towards job preparation, then there's technical knowledge that you have in your field, and that's particular to your field. Then there are 2 sets, attitudinal and cognitive, and these are defined. There's lots of people define the skills we need to have for work, But the ones I find the most respect for are the World Economic Forum, and they change them every few years as they see the world developing, as they see this fourth industrial revolution that we're all part of developing. So the attitudinal skills, as they're currently defined, are coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, negotiation, having a service orientation, and people management. The cognitive skills are complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, cognitive flexibility, and judgment and decision making. Now, these two are the two box sets. So each of these has its own webinar defining it, and then they're frequently referred to in our work because we believe that they do a really good job of encapsulating what all of us need to have as we move forward, no matter where we are in this work life, academic or non-academic. And as we think about them, and then we can understand how what we're doing at any given time helps us develop them. So if you put that all together, then I'll just go backwards in that. So we have four things. We have independence, and the idea here is that you'll make your own mind map with you in the center, of course, and it'll have four offshoots. One is independence, where you'll define it for yourself. One is skill development, where you'll think about skills. You're, of course, more than welcome to tie off of the ones that I've started here. Academics, the same thing, and then work job prep. Now, what do you do after you get this worked out for yourself? It's this really good reflective practice. What do these things mean to me? And what, playing off of maybe what I've suggested, do you agree? Do you disagree? What are these going to be as you take them into your world? And then the second thing here is a SWOT analysis. So I mentioned in the prelude to this webinar that it's a good time of year to think backwards on where we have been, and then to think forwards on where we want to go. And there is no tool year in and year out that I use at this time of year as consistently as a SWOT analysis, because the strengths and weaknesses reflection take us into the place of what have we done up until now. So looking at our independence, our academic skill, our skill development in general, our academics, and our job prep in particular, what are the strengths that you have? And what weaknesses do you think to yourself when you see the overarching list that I put together? And maybe there are other weaknesses that you know about because in your field is developing a particular way, and you may not have captured all of those skills yet. So that would help you through the strengths and weaknesses part. Opportunities and threats then take us into looking towards the future. And this is guesswork. Of course it is, because we don't know what the future will bring, but we may have ideas that there are opportunities that we haven't yet taken up ourselves up on, and there may be threats that we haven't taken as seriously, but they kind of worry us. And some of those may have come up in some of the woo claps. Now, there's a link on this page, which is the Personal Professional Development Plan link. It's slightly different, but it may take you to a similar place. If you go there, you'll find that we have taken the 10 categories that we put all of our graduate professional development under, and we've worked out a SWOT analysis page for you against those 10 categories. And that would break it down into very finite pieces for the skills that you think you're strongest in, weakest in, the opportunities you may have, and then the things that threaten you. If you don't learn them quickly, they're going to slow you down. So there's a link in this. That system is already set up for you. Or it's as easy as looking at the mind map you develop and then writing out SWOT and going for it reflectively. I promise these are only quick little conversations to get us started. And so the last part here is the woo clap question was framed as, what part of independent work is hard? What do you stumbled on or wish to do better in 2020? And the three that came through are reading, especially speeding up reading and staying focused in reading, getting and staying motivated, and choosing the best citations. So let me just have at those three a little bit. Reading. I want to remind that we have, and I'll just quick flip through there. I think this will let me go on to it quickly. There are many, the reading skills in the technical reading, the reading skills in reading comprehension skills, reading strategy skills will help. All of those links will help you. Also, though, when you talk about being a slow reader, I wonder if you are reading academic work from the positionality of, what does this author say? Which is the way we were taught to read. And it's the way absolutely we read when we read fiction. But academic work perhaps can be speeded up quite a bit by taking on a different stance in the how you read part. First off, few nonfiction pieces are read word to word all the way through. The downside of that is that we often see a nonfiction book that's heavy loaded to the front with all the main ideas, and by the time you get halfway through, you're a little tired of it because they haven't said anything new for a while. But regardless of whether that's the kind of reading you're doing as in a nonfiction book, or whether you are reading journal articles, if you read from a position of, what do I want to get out of this? If you do a little reflection beforehand, you're looking for perhaps something that will guide a working class, or will go into your lit review. And then you have a specific context in which this author has to meet your needs. If that's what is going on in your head, and then you read quickly the first sentence in every paragraph, or sometimes with some authors, the last sentence in every paragraph, you'll find that you'll be able to pretty quickly pick up the thoughts where you need to slow down because they're quite on target with what you want out of it. Then you can slow down and highlight and make notes, and then you can go off to reading just the first ones again. The other thing about picking up academic work quickly is that it's most often, 95% of the time, written in a particular format. So research is written first, the background to the research, then some conversation about the literature or research that's gone before, or the theoretical underpinnings to the work, perhaps both. Then the methodology that was used for the research, what they found, what their results were, what they found, and then what they hope the reader will take from it. If you know that that is the pattern, and it is the pattern of research-based claims throughout most articles, good percentage of them, then you can know that you may be interested in the literature this person used, so you can zoom in there. Or you may be interested in seeing they have a question that's sort of similar to yours, so you're going to look at the methodology. Or you really are looking for their findings. So being a slow reader really amounts to knowing when to go fast and when to go slow in order to get what you want to get out of it. That also may help with the struggle to stay focused, because if we know what's in it for us, it's easier to stay focused than if we're just out there. Now, that said, academic writing can be very dry. And if you are in a field that uses a lot of jargon, that makes it hard too. But these things get better with time. So taking notes, keeping focus, always on what you want to get out of it, and then kind of waking yourself up regularly, not sitting for more than 25 minutes, that kind of thing will help. Getting and staying motivated. Let me go back. I think motivation intrinsically comes from, we know that we're getting something out of this that is worthy to us and our lives. So if we once again go forward to the, I think it has to do with independence. Might not be the right word for you. It might be something else. Independence for me means my ability to guide my own ship. So if that's what it means for you, it might be the right, but you might put something else here, something that's closer to your heart and your goals and why you are doing this. And if you define for yourself the different aspects of why you are doing this, what's in it for you, what caused you to have the impulse to start graduate school, and then you use that as the foremost thing in your mind when you're deciding what work you're going to do next, that will help the motivation. Now, motivation does come and go. And there are, if you go to the Big Marker on demands, actually I have a couple of places you can go look. In the Big Marker room, there's on demands, and you can click through to look at all the past ones. And there is one, you'll notice the picture is like people working out in a gym, and it's on staying motivated. So it's a webinar that we did a while back that has proved very useful. And if you go to the December newsletter, which if you're at one of the schools that has a pd.education or a doctoral net site, you got a newsletter in December, and that newsletter had a click-through for the WooClap questions from September and October, and a little bit of November. And there were questions asked about motivation, and we gave some very specific links to other materials. At the end of the day, motivation comes from within. And so it's that place where we're wrestling with the awareness part of our skill development. And that's a big conversation. So, and that we take apart in many different times. If you ever have need for more resources, or you want to delve more deeply into a question, please write Margie, M-A-R-G-I-E, at doctoralnet.com, and she will be glad to help you find the resources you're looking for. Okay, choosing the best citations, very specific conversation. And you're always welcome to use the WooClaps to have a conversation that's more targeted than the webinar that we're actually doing. But this particular case, best is the word I'm going to pin. And this is probably a good question for anything. When you're looking for the best, what is best? Well, first off, it's within your grasp. It's within what you've found so far, because next month you will have a different best. So it's a moving target. Best, when in terms of citations, mean one of two things: fairly recent, leading edge, giving a new twist to the world, or substantive, very deep background stuff, probably started at the beginning of this thought process in your field, when you're looking at the people who have shaped your field. So those are the two bests. You're either relying on such strength that came before, and I'll use an organizational development background. Chris Argyris is responsible for feedback loops. He's responsible for negative thinking. He's responsible for a ladder of inference. Lots of really good basic ideas came from his work. So he's always a good citation. And of course, you go into Library of Congress and you try to find the most updated versions of that. Then the other thing is, maybe it's in ResearchGate, maybe it hasn't even been published in a journal yet, maybe it's just published in the most recent journals, but they are the the ideas which are carrying your field forward, specifically, of course, in the area that you're working in. So that's 2 quick things. Once again, if you have more questions than that, Margie@doctoralnet.com. Now, people in the room, I want to just say a couple of small, quick things. And then I'm hoping people in the room have had some ideas triggered from this, and you'll be helping everyone out by typing in some questions. Ella actually has mentioned, how do we use these ideas when it comes to what to look for in a graduate program? That's really a good question, Ella. I'll take off on that one in just a minute. Just to say, please use this link at the end, because we're constantly gathering data about whether or not these are approaches at any given time are helpful to you and your graduate work. And then I have a couple of things just at the end of today that will take us forward into 2020 if they're useful. But let me go back for Ella and the what to look for to our mind maps. I'm really glad to be asked this question, because I've often wondered, if I was an enrollment counselor, what I would be counseling people. I think the first thing is that you want to have a fairly good idea. There's something that's drawing you towards the program. And when I think about my own background, I wasn't clear. I just knew that I was working in an environment where PhDs were appreciated. Lots of people had them, so it made me think about them. And then I went around one time and I asked all the PhDs in that company what they had gotten out of their degree and what they might suggest for someone who was looking. So that was really helpful, Ella. And if you do that, you might find it helpful as well. And on that path, there was one person who had gone to my program, the program I ended up going to, and some instinctive response when she talked about the fact that it was at Teachers College at Columbia, but people came in from all parts of the country. I was living in Colorado at the time. Then I said, that's what I want. I want that kind of education, and I want it outside of my own environment. So I went right there, and that's what I did. I didn't spend a lot of time looking around. If you're in the looking around phase, then it really has to do with this independence part. What's your lifestyle like? Do you need it? Are you the kind of learner that needs to have face-to-face contact with people? Or will you be happy in an online program? Or will you be happy in what they call a blended program that is part face-to-face but part online? If you are happy in face-to-face, then or blended, then if it's blended, then you may travel for the blended experiences. Can you afford that travel? And if it's around you, then does it need to be close? They find that when they do research, they find that students continue through to graduation if they're in a local campus, if they're within 50 miles of their campus. Well, after that, it becomes difficult for people. Weather gets in the way, etc. Now, what else might you look for? Well, when it comes to developing your skills, what does this new university offer you in terms of what they call professional development? Professional development is where all the skills get stuck. You may have it in your library, you may have it in your writing center, you may have it in several places around campus, but all of those people kind of get clustered under this professional development head. So what are they offering? I think that's a question that people don't think to ask, but when it's tough, when your classwork, when there's holes in your personal development between what you're given in the classworks and what you've had in the past, then you want to have some kind of net to capture that you can use to fill those holes. These are the academic skills, the basic skills. You should probably identify how well you think you are already doing from your previous engagement with school on those three. And then you should question what they have that will help you improve, because all three of those will have to improve as part of your graduate work. And then this one will take you to the what do you want to get out of this degree? What are they going to give you in terms of technical knowledge, and the others? So hopefully this same setup will help you. And then you can let me know if other questions come up. Another question in the room is, challenge with independence is the true paradigm shift. Oh, yes, that can happen because of culture and all kinds of things. Up to this point, my deadlines have been prescribed. Now, working on the dissertation, I set my own deadlines. Yes, procrastination is where I stumble. Possibly fear stops me from working. That's a beautifully written post that is true for so many people. And we have something, a system. There will be, I have several resources for you, and I hope you have something that you can write. If you go to the bigmarker.com page and look up, if you go to the on demands and you go through backwards, and how you do that is you click in the upper right hand corner and you look for the on demands. There's 400 and something, and then you keep clicking on the downward arrow and all 400 of them, 3 at a time, come up. Look for several in the past. We're right, Margie, to get them. We've done work on procrastination, and so that's a topic to itself. And there's a TED talk that I think is brilliant that we've used in those regards. And it basically, what he says is that the problem with dissertations and procrastination is that there is no particular deadline. So you've pinned it, that's the reason behind this challenge. Okay, so good for you. The other thing, and maybe there's some other things particular to procrastination that'll be helpful for you in that particular webinar. Now, having the deadlines and having the step-by-step, I think, is a very valid request. And if I think you're at Maryland, so I'm going to guess that you're at Morgan State. And if that's the case, then you have all of this listed out to you. So you go to your Morgan, I'm typing .pd.education site, and you sign in with your username, which is your Morgan email, and your password is Morgan #123. And that's true if anybody is listening and you have another one of our sites, it's always the same. It's youruniversity.pd.education, except for Texas A&M, and then it's .doctoralnet.com just for this year. And you sign in with your email from your university, and this year the passwords are that university #123. That lets you into our sites. And then if you go to the search by phases menu, you'll see that there are 3 listings of search of phases. And the dissertation phase, the challenge is that your university sees only the major milestones. First chapter, second chapter, third chapter, or lit review, methodology, proposal, etc. Those are the big milestones. And there's a lot of little steps that will help you make up those milestones. Now, there are a lot of steps, and we could rewrite the steps today and come up with a slightly different pathway, but we have listed out a very credible pathway, and there's also a milestone checklist, and there are lots of articles behind each one. So you can then use that system to guide your work. Get just little bits of articles, just little bits of ideas. What am I doing next? Oh, it has to do this thing. Just enough to give you the confidence to have you say, oh, I think I can do that. And then you can get started, and you can see yourself moving ahead. And then the last thing I have to say about this challenge is that it's easier to take little bites than it is to take big ones. So I have seen many students lull around and perhaps sometimes come close to failure by thinking, okay, I'm going to work all week long, and then I'm going to do my dissertation on the weekend. And then, of course, weekends happen, and they have life in them, and they don't always get. So a better thing to do is to craft out 15 to 30 minutes a day. And for my life, my own personal story is that I was told by my university that I could finish in 3 years. I took them seriously. The truth I found out later was that no one ever had, and they didn't really believe it could happen. But I was well on my way, and I had to graduate in 3 years because I was moving to Ireland. And things were going to get much more complicated after that. So I did several things. You'll find some work on our sites if you type in backwards mapping. I had a professor who came in and he said, if you want to finish in 3 years, this is how you do it. And you backwards map from the day you want to graduate backwards. So I recommend that you look up backwards mapping on your university site, because it got me through in 3 years. It gave me the calendar I needed to understand, and we've massaged it a bit and gotten it even better. Then another thing to consider is get your milestones out and work every day 15 to 30 minutes. For me, that looked like, I still remember, I'll probably always remember all of my life, like the alarm would go off, or I would slowly get out of bed, past the dogs without waking them, into the coffee pot, which was all ready just to turn on, get the cup of coffee in my hand and sneak into this room where my computer was already laid out for the work. So I wouldn't go to bed until the computer was on the right page, until I had my journal out. I recommend you keep a journal of what you're doing each day, so that if you do miss a day, it doesn't say what you did. It's not that kind of a journal. It's at the end, you say what you want to do next. So then you can come to that journal, you can say, okay, what I want to do next is this, and you can lay it out the night before and have it ready. Then if something interferes, you know where you took off. And those will be things that will help you get through, guaranteed. Please keep coming to us with those kinds of problems. It's one of the things we are particularly good at. Also, this takes me into suggesting, and please, others in the room, write in the ones that you're challenged by as well. I hope this is, wanted to go backwards. So it may be good for you as well to opt in for the PhD Scholars Group. It's a group to help get a kickoff for dissertation writing that will help people. And there may be people who are just starting, and there may be people who are halfway through. We're having 5 Friday sessions. It'll be morning time, your time, starting either January 17th or the 24th. Let me know if you have a preference to which ones of those. If anybody in the room wants to be part of this group and it matters to you whether we start on the 17th or the 24th, it hasn't quite been decided yet. But then every week there will be a live session, and we will go through, for 6 weeks, we'll go through the thoughts you need to have, and then how you need to write this document so that it all goes together well. There's a lot of hidden curricula in this work that our work is trying to unpack. So that's what we're going to be discussing, and then people in the room will talk about it from their point of view and that kind of thing. Okay, so we have another few minutes. Are there other people in the room that have questions or want to say something that will make this time just the very most useful to you? Please raise your hand if you have something. I'm very pleased to help. That's what we're here for. There's a lot of you that have come in, so perhaps you have something else that you'd like to bring up, or a problem maybe you've seen someone else having, or a problem you're having with this very difficult thing that you're involved in, and how to keep the you together, guiding your own ship, being independent, developing your own skills to develop both your academically and your job. So anything in those 4 quadrants, I'm happy to offer other resources or discussion. Or perhaps you have other things you'd like to say to Ella about things you wished you'd been looking for in a graduate program. She might like to hear. Or is it Tuerai? Do I pronounce the last? I wish I could hear your name. Clicky, will I be able to open the links in this webinar? Couldn't. Yes, not in the webinar, but in the handouts. So if you go to handouts, there's a PDF there, and that's given to you so you can open the links. All good questions. Really appreciate everyone coming to groups. It's our time to help you get just what you need. So anybody else? You're very welcome. And please, if you have things for each other or for the people, if you yourself battled being a slow reader or struggling staying focused, or if you yourself have had experience getting and staying motivated, or choosing the best citations, those were the other topics that came in. Please write, and for the people who also were part of this group. I also have your mics on if you want to just talk. Most people prefer to chat, but talking's a possible. As some people are perhaps typing, here we go. I also just want to mention that webinars will start again the week of the 20th, we think. And please let me know if there are particular topics that you would feel would help your graduate progress. Please, would I repeat how to go to resources for procrastination for U of Minnesota? Okay, so you have a couple of options when you're searching out resources. And let me just pull the link for you on one of them from my other screen. You may have signed up for this webinar through a link on an email, but if you didn't, or so you may not know about this page, but this page that I just put up, bigmarker.com/communities/doctoralnet/conferences, is our page of all the webinars that we've done for the past 4 years. So the upcoming ones are the top row, and that's the ones that most people click on. But if you scroll down just a little bit further, it says on demand. And then over on the right-hand side, it says view more, and the current viewing is 458. So if you click on the view more, then you'll be able to, 3 more will pop up. And then if you go down to the bottom, there's a little downward grade arrow, and you can keep clicking on that. And so there's resources for procrastination, Adriana, would be, there's definitely one or two I can think of off the top of my head for procrastination that were done in the last year or so. It's a common topic. How do you get done on time? And so that's one big resource given to you this way, as in a conversation that you can listen to then by recording. Now, for University of Minnesota, you sign into the site, which would be umn.pd, I'm typing it in here, .education, and you sign in with your, and that's HTTPS :// as with most sites. And then you go there, and there are two ways to search. If you're looking for procrastination, that comes under our topic heading of wellness. So at the top of your site, there's some suggestions, and there's a to-do list of things you might consider would be useful to you. And then underneath that, or above it, I'm not sure which it is now, there's a search bar, and there's two kinds of search. You can search by our categories, and the procrastination falls under the category of wellness, because you keep well if you don't do it. So anything that has to do with awareness, development, mindfulness, habit building, time management, all of those things come under wellness. So you can search on wellness, and then you can go through and see all the resources there and choose the ones that are useful to you. You can also type the word procrastination in the right-hand side and see what you get. That search depends upon whether or not there were tags and keywords or the title that specifically used your word. So sometimes you, like in all searches, you have to choose from more than one. And if you're listening from any of the universities that we have licenses with, then that's the same story. Your university has your own site. It's your university initials, and the only one that's still a hangout through this year is TAMU, which kept their doctoralnet.com. That's if you're at TAMU, it's tamu.doctoralnet.com. Just as a background to why that is, our company is, our business identity is doctoralnet, but our branding is moving to pd.education, because we feel that it's better for you as a student to understand what we do. It causes less confusion if you're a master's student, etc. So we're about halfway through that. You're going to see the brands slowly but surely move towards pd.education through this year. What else? 10 more minutes. Are any of you engineering students? Raise your hand if by any chance you're an engineering student. We're thinking about some specifically tagged things this next year. Do we have anything for managing multiple research projects, especially with regards to reading? Oh, that's an organizational challenge, Anish. We have lots on organizational challenges, and some that aren't so very far in the past. So let me see. First off, I would have really clear filing systems for the multiple research projects in your bibliographic software. So you had clear files for each one, and under each one, references that would be useful to you because of their methodology, because of the background material, because of what they said about the field, and therefore you were going to use them for your literature. So you really need to organize everything so that today you're picking up this research project and you put on its head and you have its tools. Now, I don't know how closely entwined they are, but it may be true that they're not that separate from each other in some ways. And so if that's the case, then you still have each set of folders, but you don't hesitate to put one resource in multiple folders because they would cut across the research projects and other things wouldn't. Once you get your lit taken care of, then I would recommend that you go to our work on spreadsheets, and I did something on spreadsheets and organizing bibliographic software. I think that will be helpful to you. And then I would have a spreadsheet for each one. You need to be able the secret to multiple projects is that you can just say, okay, right now my head is thinking about this one, and you have all of its tools together. Is that helpful? And do you have any more specific questions? Once again, the little two-part exercise today, very useful. At the end of the year, whatever we want to put us in the middle of, I used independence and skill development and academics and jobs for this one, but you can really build any mind map of you in the middle and think about, just give some reflective time to thinking about the components of where you are. You might even start with the SWOT analysis and then go to building on the weakness, figuring out how you're going to solve your weaknesses. So that those two tools together are beautiful reflections. And I appreciate all of you and the 100 and 200 others who signed up for this, who may be watching it by recording, for realizing that a reflective time at this time of year is really a good idea. That way, then you can pull up your calendars. You can decide what you want to look for when our professional development things come past you. You'll get a heads up that, oh yeah, that's one I wanted. I'm glad they're doing that. I definitely have to sign up for that. You can manage the ones that you don't have. You can go looking for the resources, and things don't back up on you and you don't get so stressed. Reflection is the answer to stress. Okay, so raise your hand if you want to talk about something. It's down in your chat box. There's a little hand, and you just press it and it goes up. If you don't, then we're pretty close to the time, and I'm happy to say goodbye. Thank you for coming and adding to this conversation and sending in your woo claps. Always excellent. Those of you watching by recording, don't hesitate to put up a few more woo claps. You will get the answers to them as the next total woo clap report comes out. Please read our newsletters. At the first of every month, you should get a newsletter that lists all the webinars and talks about tools that you might think about for this particular time. And many of you are at universities which send out newsletters on a weekly basis, and most of them also feature our things. I will enjoy the holiday. Thank you very much for coming. And I hope all of you too have beautiful, however you celebrate this time of year, it's a beautiful time of year to think inward and to enjoy our families. And for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, our shorter days, and for those of you who may be in the Southern Hemisphere, longer summer days. So enjoy them all. May you have just a wonderful end of the year. And with that, I'll stop the recording.